Hey everybody, welcome back to Northernlion Plays the Binding of Isaac Afterbirth Plus. It's the first video for me in a new week. Refreshed, rejuvenated. You ever think about it? We even played Samson in like a year and a half. This is crazy, man. Hold on, I'm like unergoed. What the heck? How was I sitting yesterday? Yeah, this'll work. You hear refreshed. You hear fresh. You never hear someone's feeling freshed, though. 88JC 7B HP. You know what I mean? Like, you never... And this isn't even a bit, it's more of just a quizzical way to open the episode, I suppose. You always hear, oh, I feel rejuvenated. You never hear someone say, like, oh, I'm, like, juvenated today. Is it because, like, you're born with, like, one fuel token of juvenation? And then from that point onwards, it's like a battery, you know? You don't get a new battery, you just recharge it. I don't know, man. That's probably a word that originally English borrowed from, like, you know, Greek or Latin or something like that. So, I mean, trying to understand the English language is a fool's gambit. People always try to argue, well, it's like this because of this and this. Like, there's 7 other words in the English language that follow this exact rule. And you're like, yeah, that's cool. There's about 17 that are in a similar camp that break the rule. But yeah, you know, there are 7 that support where you're coming from. I don't disagree. Always used to say when I was teaching English, you know what, I just want a little damage bonus there. Always used to say when I was teaching English in Korea, sometimes there's rules. Depends on the age of the kids, you know, like... When they're like, you know, 6 or 7 years old, you just go, this is how it is. Maybe there's a rule, like, oh, you can I before E except after C, right? When the kids were like 15 or 16, I would just start to level with them. They'd be like, you know, teacher, why is it like, you know, tough is pronounced tough, but, you know, bow is pronounced bow, B-O-U-G-H? And you'd be like, kid, I gotta level with you. You're playing... the house always wins in the English language, okay? No matter how much you practice it, you're gonna get something wrong. Even people who only speak English and actually speak it pretty well still get a lot of things wrong. There's words I don't know the meaning of them. There's words I don't know how to pronounce, and I just I wing them. I was reading about the Civil War today, and I saw a new... Well, I'd heard the word before, but I'd never seen it in print. The word is appomattox. Capital A-P-P-O-M-A-T-T-O-X. I guess it's it's where an important battle was fought during the American Civil War. First 5 seconds, you look at it, Appomattox? No, dummy, it's Appomattox. Why? Because I know that's how it's pronounced. You know, you get the idea. I guess it is called an appetizer, so the rules kind of make sense. Anyway, I'm on cloud 9 right now. I had a good day yesterday. You know, I've talked a lot about New Year's resolutions. A genuine New Year's resolution for me is to, like, on days where I don't have to be on the internet, get off the internet way more often. Because I genuinely, this is not a joke, and it's different for everybody, and the internet means different things to different people. You know, I would say probably most people now, the internet for sure is like your biggest source of like socialization. And I don't mean like, oh, loser, go outside. I mean, especially like during the pandemic, you know, when people aren't really going outside. You're not going out for, you know, happy hour after work. You might drink a couple of Bud Light Limes on Zoom or something like that. So, I mean, I think there's a lot of value in that part of the internet as well. Definitely, like, there's also parts of the internet that, like, when you get 35 milliseconds of free time, you're like, hey, I'm just gonna go to, like, Twitter and seek out, like, the world's dumbest take. And it feels good, because you're like, I'm smarter than this guy. But it also feels bad, because I think it puts you in, like, a negative headspace for, like, maybe not the rest of the day, but it, like, primes you to be a little negative. Hold on, I don't want to go all the way. Depends on the boss here. That's pretty good. I was kind of hoping at some point we'd get a key. I don't know how we're going to make that happen, though. But, you know, I don't feel like I really need to go too far into, like, my treatise on this. I feel like most people kind of agree that, you know, spending too much time on the internet tends to lead to a depressed mental state as opposed to an elevated one. I'm not saying that, you know, if you suffer from... And I'm building in a lot of caveats here because this is a sensitive issue for people, but I'm not saying depression is caused from being on the internet. All I'm saying is that my mood, I think, for the most part, there's essential stuff you got to do on the internet. There's fun recreational stuff you do on the internet, like, you know, talking to your friends. And then there's, like, that mindless internet, like, hey, check out what this moron just said about something stupid, you know? And then it feels great and everybody laughs, and then, like... for the next 45 minutes, you're like, why do I feel kind of like bad? Not guilty, because some of these takes deserve to be dunked on, but anyway, so, you know, on Saturdays, I don't really have to be online very much, you know, I have to maybe set a couple of videos that are, oh, he's so stupid, they're gonna go out on Sunday and stuff like that, but, you know, for the most part, I actually logged off, like, a lot yesterday, and I feel amazing. Dude, come on. You're not gonna give me, like, a single consumable here? What did I do? Well, first I tweeted that I was gonna log off for most of the rest of the day, because no good deed is worth doing unless you can also gain some kind of street credit for it, right? But then secondarily, I tweeted, like, yeah, I'm gonna do some chores, like, read a little bit, and, you know, see where the day takes me. And... it's close, man. It's close, because I'd rather, like, save our bomb, but I don't mind using the money to try to get something better than multi-dimensional baby. Yeah, I think that's probably a little bit better. Maybe not a ton, but a little. And then we should be able to get to our secret room as well, and who knows what our secret room contains. And I'm not willing to go too hard here. It's a little touchy, because it could be either way. Okay, I think we're not going to go to the secret room. I think we're going to play this one more time. And then we're going to get the heck out of the floor. And I'm okay with that. Maybe second secret? No, it's still a little too spicy. Everybody want to know what book I'm reading. I promise you, you don't want to know what books I'm reading, because it's, you know, you're not going to be, like, mad. Like, it's not like I'm reading, like, dangerous literature. But, you know, everybody wants me to be, like, reading the new Brandon Sanderson novel or whatever. And instead, I'm like, you know, or like, hey, you like the TV show The Expanse? Are you going to read the Expanse books? I mean, I'll never say never, you know? Who knows where this life will take me, right? But I'm reading a very famous investing book right now called One Up on Wall Street by Peter Lynch. It's a great book, but again, it's not what people... I mean, you asked. It's not like I offered. So if you're gonna roll your eyes, go ahead and roll your eyes. I tried to protect you, but your curiosity knew no... it knew no limit, right? So, anyway, and then, you know, it's funny to think back at how, like, even when I was a kid, I think this is more of, like, a 70s or 60s even sort of, like, cautionary tale. But as a kid, they would tell you, like, TV, careful watching that TV, it's gonna rot your brain. Felt very mentally healthy, just, like, watching some sports on TV without looking at my phone. Like, I feel like we've entered a world where, like, the internet... And I got nothing against the internet in large. It's, like, the most incredible tool invented in my lifetime, for sure. But, well, yeah, technically it might be invented before my lifetime, but you get the idea. But, you know, I think there's also something to be said for the fact that it's, like... And I'm snapping here because I'm getting ahead of myself, but, you know, it provides you with kind of sensory overload at such an unbelievable pace that... it's good to get away from it, and I'm saying this after having been not even really away from it, because I was still chatting on Discord a little bit from time to time, but, like, I didn't go pure ascetic mode, you know? I still had to research the price to book value and price to free-flowing cash for numerous real estate investment trusts available in Canada right now. And by had to, I meant for some reason felt compelled, even though I'll probably never invest in them. You know, I think on the internet, anytime you're bored for even, like, a split second, you're just like, next thing, next thing, next thing, you know? And you just kind of keep it chunking. We will. We will. And I honestly feel like, that I don't have, like, adult attention deficit disorder. But I think that having spent so much time on the internet has left me, let's not say unable to deal with boredom, because I don't think that that's the case. But what I think it has led to is like a situation where you're kind of like never bored, which is good but also bad. Because, you know, when I was a kid, I used to like read all the time. Literally, like, and I've talked about it before. It's not like, I don't mean it to be like a weird flex or whatever. But I was extremely well read as a little kid. Like, I wasn't reading, you know, like, you know, War and Peace or whatever, or, you know, A Farewell to Arms when I was 5 or 6 years old. But I was reading, like, you know, young adult fantasy novels when I was like 6 or 7. You know, stuff like Chronicles of Narnia. And, you know, I read the Lord of the Rings books. I don't know, I was probably like maybe 13, which is about an appropriate age. Again, I'm telling you, I'm not flexing. But now, like, I do read, and I listen to a lot of audiobooks, but when reading, I notice, like, your mind tends to wander a little bit, and when your mind wanders, of course, you finish, like, 10 pages, you don't even remember what was in those 10 pages, you go back and read them again. But even then, like, now, sometimes while reading, I'll get, like, you know, 5 pages in, and then my head will be like, you know, it'll send almost like a notification, right? That's like, you should check Twitter, you should go to, like, you know, r/hockey for some reason, even though I can't imagine that there would be any pertinent information on there you couldn't get later. You know, and kind of so on and so forth. And I feel like it's not like a destructive habit in the sense that, you know, oh, you're not going to be able to, like, survive in the world with this sort of diminishing attention span. If anything, it probably tailors you a little bit more to the times. You know, that you can, you understand that, you know, people probably get a little bored a little faster these days, and as a result, you're like, I'm going to get to the meat of the discussion, I'm going to make content that's a little bit more, like, you know, tailored to that. I just wanted to make sure we were ready to get in here, by the way. Because we got some spirit hearts backing us up. Yeah. But still, it's like, I think it's kind of a bad habit for me, at least. I won't say for everybody out there. So, you know, it's kind of just like, not like a divorce from the internet, just like a, you know, taking a little tolerance break, if you will, so I can start to dream again. It's a joke that's not going to make sense to some people in the audience, but some other people in the audience are going to be like, my man. And I'm going to be like, nope, I just happen to have a lot of friends who partake, to be honest, and they tell me about it, no matter how much I beg them to I mean, not to stop doing it, but just to stop talking about it constantly. Anyway, so yeah, so I mean, the whole point that I'm trying to get at here is more like, you know, it's funny, like, times change, right? Like, when I was a kid, it was like, oh, don't watch too much TV, or, like, don't play too many video games, it's gonna rot your brain. And now I'm like, man, taking, like, you know, a couple hours to just watch, like, cable sports, it felt like I was meditating. Like, it felt like I was in, like, a sensory deprivation. And I'm not being facetious. I mean, like, I'm playing it up a little. Obviously not a secret room because we used the world card, my bad. But, like, playing or watching a little sports on TV, and I don't even, like, really care about football, I don't, you know, care about basketball, really, but just, you know, watching it, I was entertained, which makes sense. Apparently they're pretty popular, but just not having my phone, like, out and constantly scrolling while watching it, I was like, I felt like I was in, like, a temple in Nepal or something like that. Like, I was becoming, like, a Buddhist monk. It was like my brain is used to receiving such a broad throughput of information at any given moment, and then to have, like, just one thing to focus on was like, I don't know how to describe it, you know? It's like when you walk, when it's the heat of the summertime and you walk into it with, like, an air-conditioned mall. Felt really good, just being honest, not trying to make it weird. So yeah, I read a little bit, you know, watch some sports on television. HBO, you're gonna be like, oh, he's turning into, like, a full investor. Not the case, but I was watching HBO, and they happened to play a documentary on Warren Buffett's life called Becoming Warren Buffett. I gotta be honest with you, I know you're gonna say no billionaires are good. I know you're gonna say it because I've seen it. He seems like a pretty nice guy, is all I'm saying. You know, it almost bring a tear to your eye. I'm not trying to become, you know, like a stan for Warren Buffett. I'm just saying, seems like a pretty good dude, at least by billionaire standards. We can meet in the middle there. Like, he's not doing, like, Peter Thiel type stuff, you know? He's like... You get, like, $66 billion to charity. It's crazy, man. Also, the man eats... Warren Buffett was... And I don't think you just emulate... You know, if you want to be Warren Buffett, I don't think you emulate exactly what he does. I think that would lead to you living like someone born in 1930, despite you being born in, you know, the year... You know, probably post-1930 if you're watching this. But if you're born pre-1930... You know, more power to you. That's pretty cool. But my man, for like breakfast, is crazy. He tells his wife in the morning, like, he's like, I say 314 or 286 or 321. And depending on the number that I say, my wife puts that change into the cup holder of my car, and then I go through the McDonald's drive-thru, and I either get a sausage and egg McMuffin. And obviously the prices are based on, like, you know, that's the price of the meal, if that makes sense. I mean, obviously it does. I don't know why I'm making it seem so complicated, but or I'll get, like, I use like a cheese and egg biscuit, or if the market's really lean, I'll just get 2 sausage patties, and then at the office I'll have a Coke, and that'll be my breakfast. And I'm like, you're 86 years old, man. You're eating 2 McDonald's sausage patties and a Coke for breakfast? That's crazy. This guy's like, that's punk rock, dude. That's not a financial institution. That's punk rock. That's like the Nickelback song, you know? Well, I just wanna be, well, I'll stay skinny 'cause we just won't eat and we'll have brunch at the, you know, that's the joke. But anyway, and then, you know, that was it. That was basically my day, and it was quite nice. I would recommend it, like, you know, again, I don't feel like I'm never gonna be one of those guys who's like, you know, I may say I want to live in the woods, but after like a day in the woods, I would be like, probably after like an hour in the woods, I would be like, what? There's no Wi-Fi here. 3G? Are you crazy? Not to mention in Canada, because thanks to the telecommunications oligopoly, we don't really get that much like roaming data, so it's going to be really hard to browse. Anyway, but if, you know, you got to be on the internet to some extent. Like for my job, which I enjoy a great deal, there's no choice but for me to be online all the time. I mean, you could take time off, obviously, but, you know, on a daily basis, it's not, you're not going to stream and be like, I'm just going to keep chat off and just stream into like a sensory deprivation tank, right? Like, that's counterintuitive and also kind of like self-torture. But just to take like a little bit of time on the, when you got the opportunity, to be a little bit less online for the things that, and again, very much not saying like never go online, but, you know, if you really audit, well, let's not even make it like a preachy thing. If I audit like my online time, what percentage of it, like after working hours, is actually providing me any value at all, including leisure? The answer is little. There's some leisure for sure, and the first like 15 or 20 minutes are like pure leisure, you know, right up the superior vena cava. But then like after that, sometimes you're just like, I should go to bed, and I'm tired, but for no reason, let's just like refresh these same like 4 websites I go to over and over, right? Like there's a genuine, oh, I hit Q by accident and now I don't have a tarot card. But there's a genuine, almost like addictive mechanism that I think a lot of these websites function on, and, you know, it's good to recognize it. A wise man once said, the chains of habit are too light to be felt until they're too strong to be broken. You know where I learned that? There's a quote that Warren Buffett recited in the Warren Buffett documentary. See, one day off the internet, my brain's already expanding a little bit, I hope. And I wasn't even off the internet, but anyway. So yeah, in case you're new here, internet bad, NFL football good, apparently, is my new... If you want to take it in the worst way possible, I mean, that's definitely not what I'm saying. But even, like, I don't know. I feel like it's applicable even for people who already, like sports, for example. And it isn't even really, like, a sports-type bit. Man, we are not going to get our deal with the devil here, and I'm going to be disappointed. But like, just watching like a game of basketball feels quaint without like, you know, following the trend on Twitter and or like, you know, sometimes depending on where you watch it, there might be like a live reaction set up like next to it, and people are always talking about like, I bet the under on this one because Bodog.ca had a and then like there was a bit, and you know, they had a free $4 coupon if you deposited $100 into the online casino, and you're like, just watching the game was kind of like, hey, this is nice. to just be watching sports and not inundated on all sides by people who were just talking about, you know, sports gambling, I guess. But and I've said my piece on sports gambling before, which is you know, I think it can be entertaining, but you know, obviously you got to be a little careful as well, or more than a little careful. And I guess maybe I'm a boomer, but I find the pace of its normalization within North America, because I think it's always kind of been a thing in like Europe, right? Like anytime I've been to Europe, there have been like, you know, sports betting houses like once every 3 blocks or something like that. I mean, I guess we might as well do that. Anyway, that's all everybody's got opinions, you know, myself included. It's just nice to like reduce the amount of stimulus you're getting at any given time. And that's the first time stimulus has been said in a non-political context in like weeks, so I apologize, but I think reducing especially like the simultaneous sources of stimulus you get can be important. You know, like you can read a book and have the TV on and, you know, be in a group chat with your friends. This is bad, man. And like you can have like 75 different things going on at any given time, you know what I mean? It's okay, so we're coming back, we just need some HP. Sometimes it's just nice to tune like all but one out. Just give it your focus for a bit. And I'm not the greatest superstar at making that happen. I'm just saying, you know, I noticed the value of it this time. Also, just like, it's hard to explain. And this is not me suggesting that I've come up with some kind of revolutionary, you know, like self-help theory. Logging off, the benefits of logging off are very well known. Our ancestors, in fact, were so good at logging off, they never even logged on in the first place, which I think, you know, partly explains why their attitudes have not evolved so much with the times. But by never even logging on in the first place, they cost themselves greatly. I mean, obviously the internet didn't exist. This is just a joke that I'm stretching too far. But by never logging on in the first place, they cost themselves greatly. But simultaneously also I'm not going to say they didn't get any benefits, but I'm just saying for me personally, like, sometimes you mindlessly consume content, you know what? And I don't mean like YouTube, because you should keep watching these for sure. And upvotes to the left, by the way. But you know, you mindlessly, like, for me, the vice of the internet is Twitter. Twitter's great. I see a lot of funny jokes, and I have a lot of my friends on Twitter, and you know, it's always nice, like, believe it or not, you know, I know this isn't in character for me, but it's always nice when you see someone on Twitter who's like, hey, I had a great day, check out this great day that I had. It's nice to pop in and be like, hey, I'm stoked you had a great day. Feels good, you know? Kings helping kings. But, or supporting kings, I should say. But, also, like, sometimes you get sucked down a rabbit hole and you don't even realize it for like 15 minutes. You're like, hey, world's dumbest man has posted a statement, and you're like, I gotta read this. And then you don't just read that and laugh. You're like addicted to reading the secondary response to it, which is like, it's just a never-ending, like, idiot cycle. I apologize for the way that this sounds. It'll be like, dumb person says something, and you're like, okay, that was fun to read. But then, like, in the tweet that's like, hey, check out this dummy, there's a lot of other dummies that have, like, sometimes even worse takes. And you're like, I gotta see what these guys are saying. And before you know it, you know, you're like 75 years old, and you wasted your life, you know, like, mentally dunking on people on Twitter, you know? So at least, like, to not do that on a Saturday. To not do that on my real day off. That feels important to me. So we're getting there, and it's a good thing. I think it's a huge positive, honestly. We might as well buy this. This could be like a huge turnaround for us. Like, the run is fine, but it obviously, like, it could be better.
2 of diamonds.
Getting a long-term great card would help out. And, of course, getting as many great items as possible. Definitely do not care about Ace of Hearts. We should be buying, like, every key, but it's kind of... It's probably not going to be as important as I might think, right? So I think we'll get this. Money is a very small object for us right now. I think you might as well pop that. We might as well check our trinket. I don't think we're going to take it, but you might as well at least check. And now we'll buy the key. And we're going to go... Like, we have blank card, 2 of diamonds. We already used 2 of diamonds. Blank card, chariot is fine. Probably not the kind of setup that's going to carry you, you know, you're not going to steamroll the rest of the run as a result of this, but you can have some fun regardless. Anyway, so that was like, I don't know, I felt really good yesterday. And I think it's like, you know, the longer you, like the internet and like what it does to your brain, again, very many positive things when used as a tool, and even a tool for recreation. I'm not saying like recreation on the internet is positive, I'm just like, and I think I'm starting to come close to my treatise here, okay? I'm starting to come close to the general meat and potatoes of my point. I think there's like a spectrum of content that's you know, some of it's better for you than others, right? And I'm not one of those guys, believe it or not. I am not one of those like rise and grind, you know, hustle 24/7 kind of guys. But much like you know, there's content or there's food that's like good for you in terms of its nutritional content, then there's food that's kind of like, you know, not great, not terrible, and then there's food that's really bad, and then there's like poison. I think the same to some extent kind of applies online. I think there is content that is good for you to consume. And I don't just mean, believe it or not, and this is where this run's going to come together. We're going to leave behind that, and this should be solid. Let me caffeinate before we get to the final point. There's content that's good for you. And I don't think that's exclusively content that makes your life better by teaching you a skill or, you know, and so on and so forth. Like, I think it could be good for you to just read a fiction book, you know? Of course. Even if the fiction book is, like, not that, you know, it's not The Old Man and the Sea or something like that, I think it can still, like, nourish the soul, you know, for lack of a better word. Normally, I don't talk in, like, generalities like that, but for lack of a better phrase, I think that's true. You know, I think you leave the experience feeling enriched rather than, I don't know, angry even. And then there's kind of, you know, and it's not just reading, you know. I think even, like, you know, watching a movie can be good for you, you know. I think that watching YouTube videos can be good for you, depending on what you're watching, right? So there's a lot of stuff that factors in there. And then, of course, you know, also, like, yes, reading nonfiction books about, like, hey, this is how to, like, change the oil in your car or something like that. But we don't need to get into that kind of gradation right now. And then there's stuff that I feel like is kind of like, it's sort of like neutral, you know? Cruising social media, but not for stuff to get mad at. Mindlessly watching, you know, YouTube stuff over and over without getting sucked into the part of the algorithm that wants to expose you to, like, radicalization. I'm just saying it, like, I've talked about it a lot on the streams lately, but I've been watching more YouTube than usual lately, and it's crazy how, like, I can totally see how, you know, especially if I were younger and less confident in, like, my own critical evaluations and stuff like that, you get sucked in. You know, we were watching videos on, like, Vancouver dash cam stuff, and it escalates really quickly from the algorithm being like, look at this dummy making a left turn from the middle lane, to, like, people dying. Like, worst fatal car crashes 2020, and then the video will start with, like, hey, make sure you click the like button if you enjoy this. And it's the same with, like investing YouTube. Like, you start watching a couple of, like, middle-aged guys who are, like, you know, here's a couple of dividend stocks I got my eye on, and pretty soon you got a bunch of like 19-year-old kids who are like, if you don't buy this Chinese electric vehicle company within like the next 12 hours, you're gonna be broke forever. And you could see how, like, especially if you weren't confident like in your own ability to evaluate things, you would be like, well, this guy's got, like, he's holding a stack of cash in the thumbnail, he knows more than I do, we might as well do it. Anyway, but there's stuff that's kind of like neutral, you know? Maybe like mindlessly watching some television and not really getting much out of it except for passing the time or something, you know, playing a video game that you still enjoy. Like, I think there's definitely like a destructive way to play a video game, because I've done it, you know? I've talked about it before. Like, sometimes you just feel, you're like, you know, I'd finish work in 2014 and be like, time for Dota, and then, you know, after like 4 hours of Dota, I would be like, I didn't even enjoy like more than 45 minutes total. The problem doesn't necessarily even lie with the media that you're consuming in this case, you know? I think it's more about like the power of habit and stuff like that. And then there's stuff that I think is like actively kind of, you know, if we were talking about nourishing the soul, I think there's stuff that kind of decays the spirit as well. And I'm guilty of consuming a lot of that. I'm not necessarily talking about, like, you know, political YouTube content and stuff like that that, you know, it makes people increasingly, you know, polarized. I mean more so like, you know, stuff that you, like, there's like a glitch in the human brain, I think, at least for some people, where, you know, they feel compelled on a daily basis to seek out things that they actively are made angry by, and then, you know, feel like somehow, like, your brain sends you like a weird signal that's like, this was productive, or like, this was like good in some way. And that's the stuff that by taking kind of like a more of a stand and logging off, like, for at least a little bit, it seemed very helpful to me. Let's put it that way. I mean, I can't believe we've maintained like the same theme for this whole episode so far. That's pretty rare. And I didn't even expect to come in and think I was going to be like, hey, WandaVision's coming out on Friday. How about that? But yeah, I think there's some useful meat there, you know? You can disagree with me. We're all figuring it out together. I'm not saying throw the baby out with the bathwater necessarily, you know? Don't turn off the whole internet just cuz, you know, there's idiots on Twitter or whatever. But yeah, that's kind of my take on the subject. It's less about like like not being online, and more about using that as an opportunity to reflect on like consuming content more consciously, you know, content then rather than I just feel like because you get kind of mindlessly sucked into like the content whirlpool sometimes. Before you know it, you spend like 25 minutes clicking on dumb things that have provided you with like no value from either like a leisure or from an intellectual standpoint. You know, there's just like it's meaningless time spent. And yeah, using that as an opportunity to reflect on like, hey, what would be a better way for me to spend the bulk of my time, you know, on the internet? Especially like I think with the, I mentioned this in the tweet, but you know, now that we have our kid, feels like and not that I've been wasting like a ton of time online, like, hey, not now, baby, like, you gotta see this tweet that somebody made. But, you know, you can kind of like feel it in your brain, if that makes sense. Like, you feel the pull that you're like, you know, I've been like hanging out with my daughter for like half an hour. I can just like very quickly check and see what the dumbest thing in the world is on Twitter. And then you gotta fight back. Your brain's gotta be like, no, that's stupid. So yeah, I think it's positive. I think it's a good, you know, a good period for reflection. Let's put it that way. I had a good day yesterday. It turns out, like, and this is for like content creators specifically. I don't know. There's probably like 8 YouTubers who watch these videos that have to deal with these problems at maximum. But you know, if you need permission from somebody to like ignore the parts of the internet where you get anonymous feedback solicited to you 24 hours a day, your Discord, you know, maybe you got a subreddit, maybe you're big in a particular sort of game, but not everybody who plays that game likes you because they're like, he's kind of mean because one time he said the F word to my friend when my friend was being really toxic to him in the game, you know. Hey, we don't like this. We don't like FIFA YouTuber 1. We like FIFA YouTuber 2. He's our guy. You know? I give you my permission to log off from that part of the internet. Nothing's gonna happen. You're gonna be fine. You could take a 12-hour break from reading what people you'll never meet think about you. I promise you, you'll be okay. For a couple of hours, it might bother you. You might get this little itch, you know, at the back of your neck. That's like, I gotta know what this guy from Biloxi thinks about my newest Isaac episode. And you know, sometimes it's good to have that, but simultaneously, I give you, you can walk away for a bit without things going terribly wrong, I promise. I promise. Alright, let's carry this run through to its logical conclusion. Everything on the run is good. It's a very good run. Does need, and it's not gonna get it, but to be a true, like, Hall of Fame caliber run, needs a little bit of extra damage in particular, which we can get from, you know, just being Samson to begin with, but it's not quite like Hall of Fame level, but it's a pretty easy win in the whole scheme of things. I would love to deliberately take some damage, and it's not just because, like, we're pinched for time. That is part of it. Oh my god, he made it through a whole episode where he was pinched for time without mentioning that he's pinched for time. I know it's progress. It's because I'm in such a good mood. Having watched my surrogate favorite NFL team get bodied yesterday. It's true, I'm like by default, I'm kind of like a Seahawks fan. I liked the Seahawks when I actually watched football, when I lived more out east. You know, I liked Sean Alexander, and I thought the uniforms were pretty cool, and I feel like, you know, it was just a cool team. And then, plus I ended up stealing Matt Hasselbeck's hairstyle. Yes, he's bald, that's the joke. But now, like, because we live so close to Seattle, and we have family, like, in Washington who are Seahawks fans, or, you know, I'm like, yeah, I guess I'm kind of a Seahawks fan. So I was like, I'll watch the Seahawks game, and then they just got destroyed. And I was like, this is an outrage. We gotta fire Pete Carroll. What the heck? Is it that hard to win the championship every freaking year? Here's what you gotta do. You gotta cut Wilson. He's a lazy bum. Who's their amazing wide receiver? Yeah, make him the quarterback. He's earned it. My god, we gotta hire this guy. So anyway, that's my thoughts on that complicated issue. For now, thanks for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed the episode. If you did, click the like button. Of course, it helps out. An amazing deal. And of course, subscribe if you want to see more in the future. For now, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. See ya!